Auditor General, we have emboldened the lady. She has been out telling us things that we did not listen. But now we have emboldened her because now she realizes whatever I've been telling these people, finally it has come to happen. Accountability. We want to know why you're spending this much. Why is this money, not in the system? Where did we lose the 15 billion? We have issues to do with the NTSA. Now these questions will form the debate going forward, and we must get answers. It's not how relevant. It is vital. It's key. I mean, it's all systems go as well. I think Kenyans should be very positive about what has happened. Kenyans unfortunately had to go through the rough terrain to ensure that it does not pass. But after the collapse, it means we go back to where we were before, because we have the financial bill for the year 2023-2024. And if you look at that bill, you can tell that as much as they collected, whatever they collected, was not as bad as they would want to paint it. I know they would want these other extra 300 and something billion, but also that tells us in the austerity measures that they had put in place, I think we can now look for other austerity measures. And the austerity measures is not just to tax or to get more money. I think there are ways we can do to cut on our costs, What are these? We are doing excesses. I mean, these offices can be removed. We have the first lady, the second lady with an office. I think even the third lady has an office that is funded. We have these repairs that we're doing at State House. I don't know where. I mean, those are excesses that really calls for more money, which is what they're looking to finance. So I think we need to strictly stick on what is vital for this country, and we shall be good. In fact, that budget didn't have to go that high. So it's just, a sober moment, okay, now we need to go back. Now, let's get it right. Even with what we are collecting is still adequate, and we are good to go, but get things right from the word go. Well, definitely. I mean, there would be areas that would be okay for the country because they could be having more information than we do. But also remember, we are not necessarily judging this from other factors that they could be looking at. We are looking at this as from the point of taxation, because the government has shown that the only way they can raise funds is through taxing. So they have overly taxed, and the other day, if you remember, he was captured saying that his objective is to raise our taxation from the current, I think, 10% or 12% to 22%. So imagine if you're feeling the heat at that level of 12%, and then his objective is to get you to 22% taxation. That already tells you you're going to suffer more. So the people are already judging him from his objective of taxing us more against the good that would bring. So I think his communication, as he said, is an issue. So if we could deal with the positives, what do we need to know that this particular bill will do for us that will change against the excesses and the wastage that we are seeing around? I mean, the areas that he has not dealt with. I mean, it's a good thing, but are we dealing with, for example, corruption? That's why we're losing big money. Why are we not seeing that being a policy within his government to ensure that we don't lose money? If you're losing 2 billion, they say 2 billion or 2 million per day or per month, I don't know. If we're not trying to get that money back, and that is in billions at the end of the year, then why are we taxing more people more, That's my take about that. Well, you see, understanding the appropriation bill, I would quickly just try to understand what is appropriation. I think this is trying to give the government the way and how to utilize the funds that they have in their kitty. So that in itself would be okay, but it calls for further scrutiny, because at times, the way we've seen this government, they would slide in some things, and if you're not careful, you might open up the appropriation bill and find other things that they're doing that are contrary to what we want them to implement. So I've not personally looked at it fully, but I also think a time is right for us to look at that bill as it is, so that they don't stop the financial bill, then pass something similar through the appropriation bill. Because once they have some legal authorization, then they will still spend it. So, but they will spend it against that which was passed, and people did not cause any. They did not do any protest. Protest against. But I think going forward, we already have the kitty. So the pockets of the common mwananchi may not necessarily be hurt that as much because we're not going with a new finance bill. So they will still punish us with the previous finance bill, but they will not introduce the new ones that they wanted to introduce. So let them spend. And remember, the biggest push we had was a finance bill. And that's why everybody seems to understand the finance bill. You get? But now, these guys went ahead and passed the appropriation bill. And the people could not have any what do you call it? Any rebuttal. Because they did not really think about it and they've not read it. So they don't have any content against it. But I'm telling you now that is the next thing. In another day or two, a lot of sentiments will start coming out because people will have read it.
Absolutely.
It's not how relevant. It is vital. It's key. Because listen, they're the people who suffer the brunt. I mean, if you ask me about Nakuru County, I think I would want to establish, why do we have many factories that were, back in the day, shut down? I mean, there are a number of things that were affecting them that nobody addressed. So the best they did was close shop. I don't need to mention them. There are many. If you go to Austerity today, many of them shut down. Why? But there are a number of things that is because there are a number of things that they went through that they wanted to have them addressed, but nobody was addressing. One of the key things that came up was power. Some of these big industries, they use a lot of power, electricity. So if this electricity becomes expensive, then as a fact of production, their production becomes very costly. And that's why we start saying goods manufactured in Kenya are more costly than goods manufactured or produced in our neighboring countries. The other day you had somebody say that some people can actually close shop and go and open a factory in Uganda and export goods to Kenya at a cheaper price. So that is something that we also need to be very careful. So if the business community is not involved, it means many of them will be looking for other areas that will be cheaper for them as opposed to staying in Kenya. You get? So they must be involved. Although I must say that every other year, the business community through the various bodies, even the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, even in Nakuru here we have a body that deals with business people. They've always had a document they give to the government on a number of things that want done. The government would look at some and it's their business to see at what point do we balance to ensure that they're safe and also the government is safe. And I think going forward, we cannot fail to have them give their input into such a bill. I think in the short term, I think we will all look at the losses that the businessmen have faced. We have a number of companies or businesses that were broken into, not by the protesters, but mainly by the goons that came in. I need to be very categorical because if you look at the protest that was put forth by the young generation, was not violent. It was a non-violent one. But at some point, there was introduction of the goons, and the business community suffered a number of breakages, a number of damages, theft, and it's huge because when even a small shop that sells phones and they lose about minimum of 10 phones. If each phone is about 100,000, already you're talking about the guy having lost 1,000,000 shillings, So it's a big loss. But on the other side, long term, I mean, the protest was against what they were going to suffer long term because they were going to be taxed by the same bill, so that much of their income was also going to go to taxation. So in the long term, I think it's a plus for them. They need not to just look at the negative side of it. The protest is there because the customers that were supposed to be buying these phones will not be buying them. The customers who will be buying their products would reduce because they will not have the capacity to purchase. So it's a plus. It's a negative on the damages and the losses that we face short term. But on the long term, it's a plus for the country because now there is more stability. There is an aspect of the government can have the trust of the people because the president also gets another opportunity to ensure that the people now trust his government because they've looked at what the people are asking for and they have put that in their program. So the people will actually end up trusting the government if they did so. So it's in the bigger picture is that the protest has brought lots of stability in the country, lots of understanding of what do you need to do, what's your role, and what are your limits. Because people at the moment, or leaders, don't have limits. They can do as they wish, This morning, you started by asking me about what do I feel about the fact that the MPs, a day after the protest, just added themselves parks. It's totally contradicting what the Kenyan community is looking for. Kenyan society wants we must have austerity measures that will ensure these costs don't escalate. You cannot just go against that, So I'm expecting stability. I'm expecting the country to grow now properly. When we talk about the economy, we expect even the dollar to stabilize, because now people realize that these people are independent, that they have these things that they can run without necessarily borrowing. I mean, there's a discussion that is about to come up about the loans that we're having. We need to audit how much do we owe the World Bank, how much do we owe these other countries, so that we know our status, because we get overexposed without knowledge. And I'm loving what's coming out, because now they have no choice. We shall demand for it, we shall get it, and we shall know where to go. So when you tell us you're borrowing, you'll explain, this is our status, why are you borrowing? Because like now they're borrowing and they tell us whatever they're telling us. The president says now, because now we said no to the financial bill, we have a shortfall of 340 billion or 350 billion or something, and then you say you'll borrow 1 trillion. We have to borrow 1 trillion. You see, automatically, the mindset is borrowing more. Not against what we need, but just borrowing. But where we are heading, everybody should look at it very positively, because we'll be able to audit and we'll have to get answers. The Auditor General, we have emboldened the lady. She has been out telling us things that we did not listen. But now we have emboldened her, because now she realizes whatever I've been telling these people, finally it has come to happen. Accountability. We want to know, why are you spending this much? Why is this money not in the system? Where did we lose the 15 billion? We have issues to do with NTSA. Now these questions will form the debate going forward. And we must get answers. Now when people are asking, why is this person not arrested? Who are the culprits? What did they do? Where are they? Why are they free? Why are they still in public office? Now, these are pertinent questions that now must be answered. It makes the bigger picture is that the country is getting better, and that's why I would want. That's why maybe I would want us to leave it at that. The future is bright. The future is looking great. The leadership is bound to change, and we are bound to have a better Kenya than what we've had for the last 60 years.